There was no exhaustion or no resistance seen at higher levels, no profit booking seen at higher levels. Yes, there was some congestion at that 26,000 mark, but the Nifty has managed to close near that mark compared to farther away from it as what happened last week. But the broader markets, of course, we have a plethora of earnings lined up even during the course of the evening from companies like Masgao Dock, from Indian Oil Corporation, and a whole host of others, Indus Towers included as well. So tomorrow also promises to be an equally action-packed session, if not more. So here's a lineup of what we have in store for you today. Start off with the top movers and shakers of the day with Vivek. A slew of stocks gained in trade today. Reliance Industries was up following its JV formation with Meta. Vodafone Idea had a volatile day but ended higher after the Supreme Court's ruling on AGR. And Hatsun Agro, a 20% upper circuit after a strong second quarter performance. And last but not the least, we also delve into the key market events to watch out for going into tomorrow's trading session. But on to the first segment of the day. Vivek is here to tell us all the big movers and shakers of the day gone by. Vivek, over to you.
Well, thank you so much for that. Well, clearly a session where it belonged to the bulls. Advance decline ratio very much in favor of the advances. First on the list today in terms of the gainers, look at MCX. Now, the company had highlighted, at the start of the month that they would be launching monthly options on MDX Bulldex. And on the back of that, analysts expect significant volumes from this particular segment itself. On the back of that, higher by over 3%. Coforge, very strong set of results. Consensus EPS estimate upgrades coming in there, over 4% higher. All of the three OMCs today doing quite well. Total Energies and Partners actually lift force majeure on Mozambique LNG project. All of the OMCs have a stake there. All these three companies ended higher by over 3%. RR Kabel, one particular name from the broader end of the markets. In fact, the top gainer as far as the NSE 500 was concerned. Strong volumes too. And PSU banks, especially towards the last 15 minutes of the session, you saw a significant up move. Talks or reports indicating that there could be a higher FDI limit that would be allowed as far as PSU banks are concerned. Most of the names ended the session sharply higher. On the other hand, quite a few laggards as well. SBI Cards, a significant miss as far as packed estimates are concerned. That particular stock ended lower by over 3%. CESC, one of the top laggards as far as the NSE 500 was concerned today. And Zen Technologies, this particular stock, very muted Q2 and execution has been delayed significantly. And Supreme Industries, a volume growth guidance cut is something that the management alluded to. Recovered significantly towards the end of the session, but despite that, was under pressure for most of the session today.
Well, yes, interesting names there. Thank you so much for joining us with all those details, Vivek. In fact, let's go across to our guests for today. Sudip Bandyopadhyay, Group Chairman at Inditrade Capital, and Jay Thakkar of ICICI Securities. Gentlemen, good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining in. Sudip, let me start with you. We have snapped that two-day losing streak for now. But what are the markets factoring in now, especially as far as earnings are concerned?
I think, Sunal, very clearly the earnings have been better than what the market was expecting. And that's been a very, very big positive surprise. Leave aside one or two outliers. By and large, the results have been better than what the consensus analyst estimates were. So I think that's been a very good development. On the other hand, there has been some positive development on the trade war front as well. One doesn't know for sure what's going to happen, but things, at least the statements coming from all the sides, have been much better than what it was, say, about a fortnight back. And there is a hope for some kind of a trade deal happening in the near future. That's, again, a big positive. The third thing I would say is that I think, the way the oil prices have moved, it's a little unfortunate, but still with the kind of the new developments, which is like the Mozambique embargo getting lifted, does encourage the entire oil market and ensures that the oil remains within a range. And that's definitely a good development for Indian capital markets.
Indeed. Sudip, thank you for joining in. Moving on to the first one, the big name that kept the Nifty higher today, that was Reliance Industries, and that was after the joint venture announcement with Meta to establish Reliance Enterprise Intelligence. Rima is joining in with more details on this. Rima.
Thanks so much for that. As you rightly pointed out, Reliance Industries has launched Reliance Enterprise Intelligence Limited, REIL, which is a joint venture with Meta, where Reliance Industries will hold 70% Meta will hold 30%. As a part of the initial commitment, $97 million has been agreed upon. And this was hinted and spoken about by Mukesh Ambani at the AGM, where it was all about AI everywhere, AI for everyone. So this is in line with that. But according to Morgan Stanley, this is only step one. Reliance Industries is expected to make significant further investments, estimated between $12 to $15 billion, to build a 1 gigawatt AI data center infrastructure. The question is, we know the kind of high valuations that global AI companies enjoy. So once REIL scales up, what will be the valuation premium, the valuations that it can command?
Thank you so much, Rima, for joining us with all those details. Jay, technically, how is Reliance Industries looking right now?
Reliance is really witnessing the short covering. I mean, ahead of the results, what was noticed, Sonal, that the stock had formed a nice base, around the levels of 1350 odd levels. And post results, it saw a good short covering happening, although not major of the shorts are covered out here. And technically, it had formed that base triangular pattern as well, from which it broke out. Since then, we are seeing some short covering, but there are yet quite a lot of shorts yet to cover. And on the upside, because of which, back of this positive news as well as short covering, I think it's heading towards the levels of 1560. So 1560 is the near-term target, Sonal, and I think about those levels, if it makes a breakout, it will inch towards this previous highs of 1600 as well. So now I think that till 1350 levels are held on a positional perspective, Reliance is in a short to medium term uptrend.
Okay, short to medium uptrend. That's the outlook on Reliance Industries. SRF is the other stock which is on our radar today. So let's talk about the numbers. Q2 numbers came during closing hours today. It was slightly a miss versus the expectations as well. But yes, YOY, it is still a higher number. If we compare it with Pole, revenues at 3,640 crore rupees, EBITDA came in at 775 crore rupees, margins came in at 21.2%, and profits came in at 388 crore rupees, which is lower than the Pole. But on a YOY basis, revenues up 6%, EBITDA 44%, margins up 550 basis points, and profits are up 85%. If we talk about the split in terms of segmental performance, the technical textiles business did not do so well, down 11%, but the chemicals business did well. That's where the growth came in from, 23% higher there. And if we talk about the EBIT as well, it was technical textiles which saw a decline of 41%, chemicals was up 96%, and packaging was up 44%. The company says that yes, they did good performance led by chemicals business, but they are dealing with uncertain environment and they remain confident to finish a good year this time around. One of the reasons why the stock also ended lower is because their CFO Rahul Jain resigned with effect from December. Now do remember, he was with the company since 2008, so that was 17 years of service with the company, and the company has grown multifolds in this period of time as well, so that also was a bit of a dampener, and the numbers slightly lower than estimates is something that the street did not like.
Did not like. The stock also ended almost 2% lower. Sudip, all of these chemical companies had a dream run at the start of 2020 onwards for the first couple of years, but the last few years have been a bit of a dampener. The stocks haven't gone anywhere, but the valuations remain stretched. Does this leave very little room for disappointment in the case of SRF and most of its peers as well?
Well, Harmaz, we have been mildly positive on the entire specialty chemicals and agrochemicals pack. You're absolutely right. I think these stocks didn't go anywhere. The performance was not really good. In fact, most of the quarters, they were disappointing the analyst expectations. And, we were all trying to stay away from this pack. But having said that, I think a lot of things have started falling in place. I think the China plus one was how these companies started gaining traction. That still remains very much valid. As far as the destocking in China, I think that level is complete. And to an extent, the demand is coming back. Domestic demand is robust. And I think at some level, the overall demand scenario is also going to improve. So we believe that probably most of these stocks have seen the worst. things will start improving from here on. So if you are a bit aggressive investor, it is definitely worthwhile looking at buying into some of these stocks. In fact, even SRF numbers, I did see the numbers and I did like the numbers quite a bit. I think there are very clearly green shoots visible in the numbers of the chemical and specialty chemical companies.
And the outlook from the management is very important. They expect to finish the year on a strong note. So we'll watch out for that as well. But let's go across to the next stock. The Supreme Court has allowed a review of the AGR matter, saying it sees no reason not to allow the centre to reconsider the policy issue. Let's get in more details on this one.
Indeed, a huge relief coming in. Vodafone Idea, of course, was here before the Apex Court asking for relief. They were asking for waiver of the penalty interest and the interest on penalty dues. There have been 4 adjournments sought by the centre. The centre kept asking for more time, saying that they're going back to the drawing board, coming out with a solution. Today, when the hearing began, they've not given a definitive structure of what the relief package will be like, but what they had sought for, essentially saying that allow us the flexibility to go ahead and to structure some form of resolution as far as this AGR issue is concerned. Now, the Apex Court taking note of 3 critical arguments. Number one, the facts on the ground have changed. Now, the government enjoys a 49% equity stake. In fact, at one point, the Solicitor General also remarked that by way of the government holding stake, it's also a case of public interest being at play. The second, the Solicitor General pointed out that, look, there are as many as 20 crore customers as far as Vodafone Idea is concerned. All of them will stand to get impacted. And finally, also saying that if the company goes away outside of the customers, competition in the sector will also get impacted. Now, on account of all of these factors, the Supreme Court saying that, look, this is a policy matter. The Supreme Court does not want to intervene, does not want to guide the hand of the centre. It does not want to prevent the centre from taking any measures for resolving this issue, and saying that given the peculiar facts and circumstances of this case, 49% stake, 20 crore customers at play, all of that factors coming into play, the Apex Court now allowing a free hand to the centre, saying that this is a policy matter. We don't want to come into the picture. The centre is now free. The DOT is now free to formulate, to restructure some form of solution as far as the AGR issue is concerned. The one question, of course, that many have left asking is that with this Supreme Court direction, will it be applicable to Bharti as well? That's a question that now the DOT, we understand, will have to give clarity on whether this relief package that the Supreme Court has granted blessings to will be pointed towards only one company or towards the wider sector. Back to you.
Ashmit, thank you for that update. In fact, Vodafone Idea has also informed the exchanges with regards to the Supreme Court hearing, where they say that they closely look forward to working with the Department of Telecommunications to resolve this matter with regards to these pending AGR dues. But Jay, you heard Ashmit saying that Vodafone Idea has 20 crore customers, but it also has 60 lakh retail shareholders. They also want to know where is the stock headed now. It did cross that 10 rupee mark in intraday trading. It's just closed around that levels. Does it have legs to go up to 11 rupees, which is the FPO price? What are the charts indicating?
You rightly said it, almost now there are, so many investors into Vodafone Idea, and I think all of them are really waiting for these levels to come. In fact, it had happened once, post those levels of, FPO, it had moved to 18 levels, but then, the hopes were quite high at that point of time too. And people were anticipating, higher levels, much higher levels at that point of time, but then it just slipped from those levels back to 7, 8 levels. But now, looking at the current chart structure and the FNO data, obviously most of the time you see long build up out there. The volumes have definitely increased since the FPO time, and now it is the second time, Omas, it's coming, in the double digits. In this calendar year. So it had come once in Jan, and now it's coming back into double digits. I think if it sustains about 11, which is the price of FPO, then I think it will head towards the previous highs of 18 or so. So I think the immediate hurdle should be 11, because many of them who would have got at those levels or entered at those levels would like to exit. But if the stock price manages to surpass those levels, then I think there could be a much broader rally on the upside. So from here on, there is less downside risk and higher potential of an upside.
All right, potential of an upside on Vodafone Idea stock. Of course, a lot depends on the final plan as well when it comes to those additional AGR dues. Let's talk about the next stock, which is on our radar now. Hatsun Agro. It hit an upper circuit, gaining nearly 20%. The company reported its Q2 earnings. Let's go across to our colleague Mangalam Malu, who is here to analyze the numbers. Mangalam.
It was a strong performance that came in from Hatsun Agro in their second quarter. A consolidated revenue growth of nearly 17%, also further aided by their acquisition of Milk Mantra. But overall, the margins were good. Year on year, there was an improvement in the gross margins, which we saw in the previous quarter as well. So quarter on quarter, they were largely stable. A mild decline is what we saw. But that has supported the EBITDA growth, and that has gone all the way down to the bottom line. So 17% revenue growth has resulted in a 35% EBITDA growth. Margins came in from 11.6% to around 13.5%. And the net profit on that base increased from 64 crores to 109 crores, which is almost a 70% jump. Gross margins staying stable around that 31-32% mark, so that's a positive. And more importantly, remember, the stock hadn't seen a big rally. In fact, it was about 15% away from its 52-week high going into these numbers, and as a result of which, we saw that big move after a good set coming in for the second straight quarter. More importantly, what this also did was caused a rally in all the other dairy stocks. So if you pull up something like a Parag Milk or even a Dodla Dairy, all these stocks saw a big surge after Hatsun Agro's numbers. But importantly, even Nestle in its commentary did point out that going forward, milk prices, procurement prices are likely to decline, which is largely margin accretive for all these dairy companies.
On upper circuit, 20%. Mangalam, thank you for that update. Now, Sudip, Hatsun Agro, if you have gone through those numbers, not just that, but the entire dairy space has been in focus because of these GST reforms and so on. It's been in the news. Any preferences within this dairy space? Parag, Hatsun, Dodla?
Well, we do like Hatsun. In fact, what he mentioned, and I think we noted from the Nestle commentary also, that the procurement price of milk is going to come down over the next few quarters, and that's very, very encouraging because that will straightway, help the bottom line as far as these companies are concerned. The margin will keep moving up, and that's pretty much what we are seeing getting played out in the Hatsun numbers as well. I think we can expect next 6 to 12 months to be a good period for all these companies as far as financial numbers are concerned.
Okay, good for the financial numbers going forward. Thank you so much, Sandeep, for joining in with your thoughts on this particular sector overall. Hatsun Agro, of course, the first one, which is up 20%, and Jay Thakkar as well for joining us with all his insights on the technical trends that are in the markets for now. With that, it's time for a short break now. When we come back, we'll get to the top corporate poises along with the key market events to watch out for on the other side.
You're still with us here on Markets Forward. Let's go across to some top corporate voices that we had through the course of the day. Now, the management of Coforge has stated that the third quarter is seasonally weak. However, it expects stabilization in the fourth one. It expects the EBIT margins to be at 14% for the full year as well. And the management has added that ESOP costs will fall, which will be a further tailwind for their margins. Now, the company also added that FY26 will be a year of robust growth and that it is very close to achieving its $2 billion revenue run rate.
And next up, the management of SBI Life expects robust growth in October, with growth projected to be in the range of 17 to 18% in second half of FY26. Overall growth in FY26 is expected to be around 14%, and the GST rate change may impact the value of new business this financial year by nearly 1.6%.
And next up is Chennai Petro. The management stated that it has trimmed down its sourcing from Russia, sourcing of crude, and now that has come down to 20%. Meanwhile, it has started importing more from the United States. Now, the company is not anticipating any shutdowns related to routine maintenance. Meanwhile, crude price fluctuations have also led to neither a loss nor inventory gain this time around, is what the management of Chennai Petro stated.
Okay, all right. Those are some important management comments coming in. And before we wrap, we bring you some key market events to watch out for. Gaurav is standing by the big wall with the key events to focus on for tomorrow. Gaurav.
Well, yes. First, let's talk about Indian markets. And when it comes to Indian market, remember, result season is still going and we have a range of stocks who will come up with the results. So we've got Tata Capital, Adani Green Energy, Happiest Minds, some of the key companies who will come up with the results. Apart from that, let's also focus on Jindal Steel and Power. We also have Mahindra and Mahindra Financial Services, Shree Cement, TVS Motors. These are some big names who will announce their result, and at the same time, Credit Access Grameen. Now, this name, we have already seen some move in the stock price. So definitely watching out on all these stocks. Apart from that, from the macro level, we will be getting the IIP data, which is India production data. So let's watch out on that as well. From the global front, first is that the FOMC meeting that will take place. It is key thing to watch out as how the decision is going to come, and that is something that we will be tracking. And lastly, let's also not forget about Trump's visit to Japan. Remember, he will be meeting with the Prime Minister of Japan. And as always, we will have some talks and some speculation around the meeting and also about the trade. So definitely on the global front, we are watching on that, and in the Indian markets, we will be watching out on all the earnings that are likely to come tomorrow.
We'll keep an eye out on all of this. Gaurav, thank you for joining in, and with that, we call time on this edition of Markets Forward. From Sonal and me, thank you for watching. More news and updates continue on this other side, so stay tuned to CNBC TV 18.